What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Monday, September 14th. We have a full week of Sunday regular season games in. It's done. You can check out, of course, the Sunday night recap show. I think it was a heater. Felt like it went really well. It was 2 hours long, an hour and 50 minutes. Debo was up until 4 a.m. editing it, no doubt. You can actually hear. So joining me now to preview the Monday night games for week one, Tyler Sullivan. Sully, sorry. We've got a situation where Breach, we talked about Pete Prisco as a peacock. And Breach goes, what about Petecock? We're like, maybe not, John. Maybe not. So so if you want to check that out, go listen to the podcast.
Okay. All right. I have to tune in.
Yeah. Steelers and the Giants. Let's dive right in because we got to cover two games on Monday night.
Let's do it.
I hate, by the way, the second Monday night game.
Oh,
I loved it before I got married and had a kid. But then it was like you'd be up till 2 a.m.
Right. Like I'm in that stage right now. Like, single, not single. My girlfriend's going to kill me for saying that, but not married, no kids. And so like, it's the ideal situation for somebody like me, but like,
it still
I don't know. When you work it and it's tough.
If you were in like Chicago or LA and not Boston, it'd be fine.
Oh, yeah.
The East Coast, East Coast is brutal. And it's not like you get to, it's not like you get to sleep until noon the next day. I guess you could in theory, but you probably got to, we all got to work.
I learned long ago, our old job was in Nashville, based out of there. The central time zone's where you want. Like that is the ideal time zone you want to be in. Those 10-10 games, it's like a 9 o'clock. It's not bad. You can deal with that. I like
Football
the central
starts at noon on Sundays.
Oh, beautiful.
Isn't that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. That might be better. Like baseball starts like 5 p.m.
That to me is the prime spot because like
I
don't mind the occasional like London game that's at 9 a.m. but I don't think I need that every day on the West Coast.
I don't need 12 games starting at. And in fact, the Steelers-Giants game, Steelers -6 at the Giants, the over under 45.5. This game starts at like 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
I like that. Yeah, I believe you. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I could get down with Monday Night Football every week at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Like, why do we have to kowtow to these West Coast elitists? Anyway, you've got a 7:25 Eastern kick. That's so much better than 8:20.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Let's get it on, people. The Steelers are -250 on the money line. The Giants are +210 on the money line. You have a preview up on CBSSports.com. I would say, what sort of stands out to you about this game? Trying to preview it because it's hard. There are a lot of unknowns, particularly with the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, there are, but, out of the two Monday night games, I thought this was actually the easiest one to really kind of pinpoint what we like, just because as much as there is an unknown with Ben Roethlisberger missing, the bulk of last season, I still feel like we know what we're going to get from him to a certain degree. Sure, I kind of see this game maybe him coming out a little bit slow. Maybe you want to lean towards taking the Giants and the points of the first half. Maybe that's something you want to look at. But overall, I just don't see the Giants secondary holding this offense to really anything throughout this game. I still think he is going to be a capable quarterback and being able to light it up. His weapons are fantastic. And then on the other side, that was a top 3 defense in the NFL last year, going up against Daniel Jones and weapons that he really doesn't have a lot of experience with. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I like Darius Slayton, but didn't really have a lot of time with Golden Tate, who's questionable for this game. Sterling Shepard didn't have a lot of time with him. Evan Ingram, all those guys he didn't really get to play with. And now you're trying to ask him to build up that chemistry with no preseason games against the top-ranked defense. That's a really tough thing to look at here. So that's why I like the Steelers here, even with the points. And there's a history of it, too. And we can get into that if you want.
Well, so here's my thing with this game. I think when you look at it from a traditional NFL perspective, the Giants at home on Monday night, getting points from the Steelers or the quarterback we don't know anything about. This is ridiculous. Like, give me the Giants, baby, because, this is the dog at home on Monday night. This is a prime spot where you want to back the dog. However, Tyler, having watched the entire Sunday slate of games, I think I may be coming around to the idea that the Steelers are an absolute hammer spot because consistency across the board and talent and depth and skill on the offensive and defensive line appear to be ruling the day. Like bad teams, and this isn't true with like Washington was getting beat up by Philly early on and then flipped the script on them. So I get it. That's not, didn't happen in every case, but like the Ravens stomped the Browns, and the Browns have a lot of moving parts. The Giants are a little similar because they have a new offensive coordinator in Jason Garrett. They lose Nate Solder, who opted out. And Nate Solder hadn't been very good, but I mean, he's, the starting left tackle. They have a second-year quarterback in Daniel Jones. I mean, there's a second-year quarterback. Who's a third-year quarterback?
Daniel Jones, second.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. I was like, did he sit behind Eli for a year?
For about a couple of games.
It's 10:30. It's my brain is shot. Yeah, that's right. He replaced him a couple games in. Anyway, and then Eli came back later in the year. Yeah. If that feels like 4 years ago, that was last year.
I mean, I don't blame it. It does feel like 82 and a half years ago.
That was last year, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That's right, because he replaced him in that Tampa Bay game. Anyway, the larger point here is that I am extremely concerned about the Giants' ability to hold up against with a bad offensive line against a very good defensive front of the Steelers.
Yeah, and like I said, continuity is just so important over these first, few weeks, maybe first month of the season, until you start really getting that, the chemistry just by playing over the first 4 games there. But even to that point, Will, I mean, the CBS Sports Research team did all this stuff, but it's unbelievable when you look at the Giants as a home dog over the last 2 years. They're 1-10 against the spread, 0-5 last year. So to me, that right there is just that's
last year they lost
reason to hammer it.
They were between 1 and 6.5 point dogs and lost by double digits in every single game.
Yeah, and I don't think they're that much better this year. And the road favorites last year on Monday Night Football, 6-1 against the spread. So, I mean, there are just so many signs pointing to the Steelers being the play here. And, of course, that'll mean that the Giants will blow them out by like 50. That's just how the way things go. But right now, I look at the Steelers being just the clear favorite here. Give up the points. It's totally fine with me. I just like everything about them right now, whether it's the offense. I still think, Ben Roethlisberger is going to come back here relatively sharp. I think he might struggle to begin with just because he hasn't had those preseason games to really kind of shake loose and shake off that rust. But when you get to the second half there, I just think they're going to open it up. That secondary isn't great. They have plenty of weapons: Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Chase Claypool, James Conner, Eric Ebron. It just seems like it's an embarrassment of riches against a secondary that's asking to get lit up.
Yeah, man. I mean, the more you look at this, it's tough to dive down. So, I think I'm in on flipping from the Giants to the Steelers. I might flip my pick on CBSSports.com. I'm certainly going to do it in my pick spool. And I might just hammer the Steelers tonight. I do think, too, the other thing that if you like Pittsburgh, the money line, maybe doing a parlay.
Yeah.
The Vegas Knights are playing tonight. They're like a -170. That's not a terrible addition to a money line parlay, right? I don't know much about hockey.
Yeah, neither do I. I watch the Bruins, but then that's really about it. He'd being here in Boston.
I watch the Canes and then watch the Bruins lose, sort of like a Schadenfreude thing. All right, so let's get to these props. So you're in on the Steelers. You have a lean on the over/under?
Yeah. Probably go with the over there. That's probably what I would probably lean with the over.
Garbage time from the Giants.
Yeah, because
I'll tell you what.
I don't even know if it's that.
I'll tell you what I like.
If it's garbage time. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say first half under.
Okay, that's not bad. I almost don't mind taking the points with the Giants in the first half. I think you get like 3 points there. It wouldn't surprise me if Ben Roethlisberger comes out a little bit slow and then halftime adjustments, they light it up in the second half, right? I wouldn't mind taking I think it's 3 points. I think it's about a field goal that you'll grab. Wouldn't shock me if all of a sudden Daniel Jones does, somewhat decent, keeps it relatively close. Maybe Saquon Barkley just goes off. And Ben Roethlisberger struggles a little bit to get into a rhythm, and all of a sudden you're talking about a field goal game going into halftime. Like, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But I overall think the Steelers are going to wipe the floor with them. Could be in the second half.
Over under. I'm seeing 22 for the first half. I like the first half under a lot.
Yeah,
we've seen a lot of these games come out slow, and I think Pittsburgh will be methodical. Look, Jason Garrett's running the offense for New York now, so they should be using Saquon a lot. They're going to grind it out. Maybe they'll try and take a shot play early on because it's Monday night, but I think they don't want to, like, what you can't have happen if you're in New York is have you turn it over and all of a sudden everything's flipped on your face. You're scoop slammed. You're down 17 in the first quarter, and you're like having to throw it 40 times. That is a recipe for disaster. So I would anticipate both of these teams are really conservative. I'll take the under, and I'm with you. I'll take the Steelers -6 here. Just got to win by a touchdown. They can blow this out and cover late with the defensive score too.
I was going to say that seems like a double-digit win every day of the week.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some props from tonight. What do you like? Well, now I'm trying to get these give me some props. Put these props up, William Hill. All right, we're looking at William Hill. Ben Roethlisberger, total passing touchdowns is set at 1.5. The over is -170. That is I'm surprised that is that high. I don't think I would definitely I think I would take the under there. I don't see. Here's my thing. Do you think that the Steelers are going to want to come out and be like, look, Ben's back? Or do you think they'll just be like, let's go run the ball, play great defense, and get a win and get out of Dodge?
I don't even think it's, here's Ben Roethlisberger. He's back at it again. But I just think that Ben Roethlisberger is going to want to see what he can do and see what they have in him against. And it's kind of one of those things, too, going up against the secondary in New York. It's almost like one of those, Alabama going up against, a Division 1A team, just a tune-up game going into the season. I think this is one of those situations where it's like, all right, we know we can win this game. Let's see what Ben Roethlisberger can do. Let's see what his limitations are. Let's see what that elbow looks like coming into this. So we're going to kind of let it loose a little bit. Sure, you want to maybe not expose him to too much. I'm not saying he's going to drop back and throw it 45, 50 times throughout the game. You don't want to ruin that arm right out of the gate, but I do think that they're going to want to see how he developed, how he's recovered so far. Because, again, these snaps are of the essence. It's not like you can just, run the football and get out of Dodge. You kind of got to know what you have here. You didn't have, that dress rehearsal game in the preseason or anything like that. I do see Roethlisberger throwing quite a bit here.
Okay. All right. I do think they'll want to – one of the things that hurt him 2 years ago was that he led the league in passing attempts, 600 plus. I think they will want to try and limit the wear and tear on the arm and sort of ease him back. So maybe I will give me a prop that you like. I would lean under at plus 145 on Roethlisberger touchdowns just personally. But give me something that you particularly like.
Well, we've been talking a lot about the Steelers, so I'll go to the Giants there just to kind of well-round it. And I'll look at Saquon Barkley. There's a couple of them there. Anytime touchdown score, plus 100. He's their best offensive player. It just seems like at some point, whether it's in the receiving game or it's, a goal line rush, he's going to get into the end zone at some point. I don't love betting touchdowns. I really don't, because they're just so erratic. Sure. But when you're looking at Saquon Barkley, it just makes all the sense in the world. When you're getting plus money, why not, throw a little bit on that there? And then the other one with Saquon Barkley.
You look at so in the Super Bowl, you always want to bet under on shortest touchdown scored at 1.5 and people are like, why would you do that? Well, pass interference puts it on the 1, and then they're going to run the ball in, or you get in the red zone and you can just see shorter. It just happens almost every game. So it makes total sense that you would go with Saquon Barkley as anytime touchdown. It's basically the same bet. You're basically betting that the Giants will have the ball on the 1 yard line at some point and punch it in, and or could be even closer. So I agree with you. I like Barkley there.
And the other one with Barkley, too, and we kind of alluded to this earlier, the under at 70.5 rushing yards plus 105, that to me is a little bit interesting because, if the Steelers come out to this great start, let's just say Ben Roethlisberger is like we maybe think, back like he always was, and they blow them out earlier, that completely eliminates the run for the Giants. Saquon Barkley, he's talented enough to still be a factor in the passing game. And maybe they have to abandon the run there. Maybe, like you said, if they come out, defensive turnover, touchdown, you're down 2 scores, you can't really run the football the way you would want to normally. Your game script kind of goes out the window. And then there goes, Barkley's opportunity in the rushing game. Now, he could still put up a ton of yards as a receiver, but still, that one is interesting to me, especially if we think this is going to be a blowout.
And if you're going to do that, if you're going to bet on the under in the rushing yards, I don't mind that at all. Go ahead and parlay it. Do a little half unit parlay with the rushing yards under and Saquon Barkley over receptions, because you're basically you're talking about this with DFS.
It's exactly what you're trying to.
You're betting on a correlation there. Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry. My son is screaming about something. He'll be fine. He'll come up here if you need to. Anything else? No, he'll be all right. Anything else that stands out to you? And Barkley's receptions is 3.5. I would absolutely take the over there. I think he gets 4 catches for sure in this game. That would surprise me. I kind of like the Evan Ingram under on total receptions, under 4.5 here at William Hill, plus 120. The logic being that while Evan Ingram is going to be a primary weapon in the passing game, this is not a great spot for him because of the presence of Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, and as well, Devin Bush. Like, they have guys who can limit what Ingram can do in terms of getting up the seam. Now, if it ends up being Daniel Jones dink and dunk to Evan Ingram, then we're in trouble. But I don't hate the under there. The one thing you would worry about is if it's a blowout and the Steelers are up big, are they passing late and he's picking up garbage time?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. The other one that I was looking at too, James Conner receptions over 3.5, minus 115. He was around that number, 3.4, with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph last year. With Ben Roethlisberger in 2018, he was averaging 4.2 catches a game. He's just such a big piece. The Steelers love to have that kind of bell cow back, even though there's an injury history there with James Conner. But he's not injured entering week one. And if he is the same kind of guy that we're accustomed to when he's healthy, he is very heavily involved in the passing attack there. And let's just say maybe they don't want to, really, try to expose Ben Roethlisberger's elbow to these, 50-yard bombs to, Juju or Johnson or Washington. Maybe it's a few dump offs. You could easily see James Conner picking those up, really in the first half too.
All right, let's talk some DFS. So you can actually play a classic version of DFS for Monday night because there are two games. Like, you don't have to just do showdown. That's kind of intriguing to me because you can mix and match from two games. It's a little bit less random. But let's talk about the showdown when we talk about the Pittsburgh and New York. The top captain choices: Barkley first, 16,200. Big Ben, 15,300. James Conner, 14,400. Juju, 13,800. Daniel Jones, 13,500. Evan Ingram, 12,000. Again, mention this all the time. It's got to be, if you're going to do a showdown, it needs to be correlated. You need to figure out how the game is going. Your whole lineup has to be correlated together. You don't want to have like Saquon, Barkley. You don't want to have all the Pittsburgh passing options and all the Giants passing options. You want to have, like, if you think the Steelers are going to blow them out, maybe you have the Steelers. I think an intriguing option here. Very cheap. 8,100. Steelers defensive unit as your captain. I wonder how many people will do that.
It is. All right, that's the way. Yeah. That's exactly how you should play this, because when you're looking at guys like Saquon Barkley or any of the quarterbacks, you are spending so much money for that captain spot that it limits what you can do on the rest of your roster. If you can look at this Steelers defense, and I think a lot of us think it could be one of the top in the NFL once again. Sure. Maybe it could easily be top 5. You get 1,800 on that. It's 1.5 times the amount. You're talking about whether they get, a fumble turned into a touchdown, pick six, whatever you want to call it. They get into the end zone there. That is tremendous value at a captain spot. And like you said, the ownership might not be there. That's another thing you got to watch here. The ownership might not be there for this defense. So to me, that's a great play if you want to go there.
All right, and so if you did that, you can actually do this build, and this might maybe if you and I are both seeing this, then maybe it'll be more popular than you think.
That's true.
But you can do a build where you have the Steelers defense as your captain, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, and Evan Ingram, with the idea being that the Giants will be forced to like pass a ton and just dump off these passes because they're trailing, and then James Conner and Chris Boswell. So you sneak the Steelers kicker in there, and then you have Conner, who's in theory running downhill. So that's sort of the build that you want to do if you're going to ultimately do that kind of build. And looking at, I can't find a percent of ownership out there yet, but I mean, I think that will be kind of popular. The one, if you want to go full contrarian, you do like Daniel Jones as your captain.
Right.
And you think that the Giants will just come out with a great game plan and dominate, or even, I think the problem is Saquon Barkley will probably be, he's the top owned cap. Maybe he won't be that owned because he's the top option guy. This is a tough game because
if you're going to go with Giants, if you're thinking about going contrarian, putting Giants in your captain spot, I still think you should go with the approach of trying to find a cheap option that's going to have low ownership. Like a guy like Darius Slayton to me wouldn't be a bad option there, because just like you said, if you think they're going to have to throw it a ton, he's a guy that Daniel Jones had a ton of chemistry with during his rookie season. Super, super cheap. I think he's 7,800 as a captain. So, I mean, you're talking pennies on the dollar in terms of the grand scheme of things. He had over, I think he had 15 yards a catch last season. He's a guy that could easily rip off.
He's gone off on Monday night games too before.
So that's a guy that I would keep an eye on there in terms of your captain. If you want to go super, super contrarian, like galaxy brain, going against Daniel Jones, going all the way going down that rabbit hole, you could still put Daniel Jones there. You can fit Saquon. You can really do some things there when you cheapen up that captain spot.
All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk Broncos and Titans. Titans -3 at the Denver Broncos. The over-under is 41. Tyler, I don't know about you, or Sully, excuse me. I don't know about you, Sully.
Either one works. Don't worry about it.
I know. Somebody called me, Breach called me Will on the podcast yesterday. That was off-putting. Who are you, my mom? So Sully, I don't think we're going to get a bunch of like awesome football on Monday night. I mean, these are not set up to be great games. Like your teams. Now the Titans probably have the most consistency of all these teams. They lose Jack Conklin. Isaiah Wilson won't be out there, I don't think. But they do have Derrick Henry. They do have Arthur Smith still at coordinator. Mike Vrabel's still there. They added Jadeveon Clowney, and then they have Ryan Tannehill. So there's like a lot of, I don't know why the Clowney thing fits in there, but there's a lot of consistency on that offense. There's reason to think they could come in and run the ball well, especially with no Von Miller, no Bradley Chubb. Titans -3 at the Broncos. The total is 41. What's your lean here early on?
See, I loved this game. A couple of weeks ago, I was all about the Broncos. I'm like, oh, this is a great spot for them. This home field advantage with the altitude is something that I do think is significant after no preseason and really a limited training camp there. I do think that there was a fatigue there that could set in, particularly in the second half for Tennessee. But then you lose Von Miller. We don't know about Cortland Sutton. He's questionable. Doesn't look like he's going to play. Even if he does play, he's going to be limited. Bradley Chubb, they say, is not 100% coming back from that torn ACL a year ago. So it just feels like everything is leaning towards the Titans here. So you could easily see a scenario where now Ryan Tannehill's looking at a clean pocket, should easily put up points in the first half, and then you ride Derrick Henry the rest of the way, and that's all she wrote. So to me, I'm leaning, I'm giving up the points here with the Titans and just rolling with them. It just makes the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it feels sort of stupid to be a complete donkey, right? And to take the Steelers and the Titans.
Mm-hmm. I know.
And normally I would say, I disagree with you, Sully. I think the Broncos are a sleeper here. I don't see how you don't take the Titans and the Steelers.
They would have been. That's the thing. They would have been a solid pick if they were fully healthy. But right now it just feels like they're one of those snake pit teams to start the year where injuries are starting to creep up. And now you're talking about, Drew Lock, first-year starter, starting the year as the starter. You have a very inexperienced receiving core. I mean, Jerry Jeudy's in his rookie year. You have, Noah Fant going into his second year. There's just a lot of unknowns there. We don't even really know how the backfield's going to shake out. So I just don't know if they're going to be able to put up points. With a guy like Clowney, that defense is still very, very good. Malcolm Butler's coming back. So to me, it just makes a lot of sense to point that way. I don't want to overthink it too much and try to, see where I can find value. I'm just kind of taking it as it is.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know how maybe this is a sucker bet. I don't know. But a Titans-Steelers money line parlay pays out over 1-to-1. Like, all you got to do, they just got to win. You don't even have to you don't have to cover anything. Just go out and win. The Steelers and the Titans go out and win, and that's it.
I like that.
Yeah. So, I think that's a pretty good spot. I tend to lean towards the under here as well. 41 is now down to 115. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of points. The Broncos aren't interested in being up-tempo. The Titans can score quickly, but I think they'll probably be methodical. I think the Broncos will come out with a good energy in the first half and try to be as, upbeat about what the things that they've lost over the last few weeks. But, it's going to be tough to stop Derrick Henry. And for as much as we talk about we don't talk about it, the conditioning thing is interesting because there's a situation where, you're in this altitude, right? Like it's a tough spot to be in if you're the Titans, because you're not used to practicing in the altitude. You have no practice. You're not going to be there early. It's going to be tough. You're going to be sucking wind. So but I think that maybe that plays to the under. Like they come out, everybody comes out slow. They're not going to run tempo up there. You know what I mean? So to me, this is an under jam.
Yeah, the first half under two, I'd hit that. It's 20.5. I'm just going under on this game the entire way because of what you just said. Melvin Gordon even said as much to reporters earlier in training camp. He's like, I didn't realize the altitude. I'm getting my butt kicked out here. Like it's no joke. And so we look at these, a lot of these stadiums aren't going to have fans, but this is a home field advantage that could still factor in here which is why I'm going to, really pound that under, whether it's first half, the entire game. It just makes a lot of sense there. Not even from the altitude standpoint and the conditioning, but from the game script too. Like if you think that the Titans are going to, really come out, guns blazing and try to get a lead and just run on it and sit on it, like you're going to just run it with Derrick Henry the rest of the way. And then there goes that under. So to me, it just makes all the sense in the world to go under.
What do you think about the Broncos team total under 19.5?
They're
going to score 3 touchdowns?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think so. I don't see
Fangio is not going to, like, it's not like this is it's like Sean McVay and the Rams didn't score a ton of points against a bad Cowboys defense on Sunday night. Like, I think you're going to see a situation where I don't think the Titans will stretch this lead to like 21-0. And even if they do, they're not going to let Denver just wing it all over the place and come back. Like, they can't just open it up on Drew Lock. I don't see where that happens either. So I think under is the play all over the place on really all of these games.
Yeah.
These games are just going under. Like these are not teams that are going to light up the scoreboard all of a sudden.
No, I don't see it. Maybe not all these games. Like, we were saying earlier, I do like the Steelers kind of lighting it up in the second half. But with this game, it to me, it just seems like everything indication will
these
say
are 2 above average defenses.
Yeah.
But there's no reason there should be a ton of points in this game. Okay, let's look at some props. What do you like in Titans and Broncos?
The one that really sticks out to me is Phillip Lindsay, total rushing yards. I'm going the over here. It's 37.5, minus 110. Like, that to me, I look at this backfield, and I know that they gave Melvin Gordon, a really lucrative contract to bring in to be the starter, but they were named co-starters. It seems like they're going to get split carries here, at least to start. It'd be one thing if there was a preseason where you could say, okay, Melvin Gordon has found a rhythm in this backfield, is clearly separating himself for touches, knows the offense. This is the first live game action he's going to get in Denver. We don't know what it's particularly going to look like. And so I do think that they're going to kind of ease him into this offense, which opens the door for Phillip Lindsay to really factor in here. And so if you're looking at that, and that's another thing here, like if you like this part, you should bet this. I'm looking over here, and in that same vein, I don't mind going for total rushing and receiving yards, 53.5. And that's minus 110. I don't mind kind of really hammering Phillip Lindsay here to have a big game, or not even a big game, just a, mediocre game to factor in here. And so to me, that I like Phillip Lindsay kind of getting over those humps.
Okay, I'm seeing one on here that I got to see if this is on my site too, but I'm seeing it on William Hill, and it's just a flat out mistake. This is a triple unit mega basher. Adam Humphries total receiving yards over under 36.5. What?
I don't mind that.
Why is Adam Humphries? Did I miss the memo? And Adam Humphries is a critical component to the Tennessee Titans offensive attack. He has 4 games last year where he's over 40 receiving yards. They're going against a team that has a decent secondary, lost a bunch of its guys up front and or have guys injured, and you're going to see Derrick Henry get fed the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would love nothing more than Ryan Tannehill to attempt 15 passes, which means you just got to dodge one deep ball to Adam Humphries or one jailbreak. I don't understand why that number is that high.
The one receiving number that I like with Tennessee is Jonnu Smith, the receiving for over 27.5, minus 110. That's the one. If I'm going to bet like a Titans pass catcher to go over on his receiving marks, that's where I'm going to look. When Ryan Tannehill was named the starter last year in week 7 he averaged 34.2 yards a game. If he just goes by his average on that point, he's hitting that over. And I actually think he's going to have a semi-breakout year in this offense. I like Jonnu Smith, whether it's for season-long fantasy or whatever you want to call it. I like that one. If I'm going to bet a Titans pass catcher, that's probably where I'm going to go.
I am a huge Jonnu Smith fan, so I'm with you on this. I think the one thing I would say about Jonnu Smith, and I don't know if you can get it, I'm looking on here to see if I can figure out how to make it happen. If you get rush and receiving yards for Jonnu Smith, you probably can't because he's not a running back. Yeah. They do like to give him carries though, so it would not be stunning to me if Jonnu Smith ended up with a couple of rushing yards as well. So total yards for Jonnu Smith, that would be a little bit of an advantage because it's probably going to be close to the same number as the receiving yards. But I agree. I think he'll look Jonnu Smith's way. And this is not you can run play action, roll out Jonnu Smith. You can just see an easy situation where he's hitting a deep crossing route. I like that spot as well. I wouldn't mind Derrick Henry's over receiving yards 14.5.
Yeah, that's not bad.
This is usually like one catch.
Yeah, I don't mind that because I like his under here with rushing.
Corey Davis is 39.5. What is happening? That's wrong. That is flat out wrong. What is going on? Why is Corey Davis at 39.5? Shouldn't that be am I crazy? Is he going to have 40 receiving yards?
I think this is what they want you to happen. I think this is I think they are luring you into the trap, whatever the case may be. But, look with Derrick Henry, like what you just said. I like the rushing under here, 96.5. I do think they're going to lean on him. But like we're talking about here with his altitude, Mike Vrabel's, he kind of comes from that Bill Belichick standpoint. And I was at the game yesterday, and Belichick was swapping guys in and out like it was nobody's business because they haven't had these.
You were in the press box yesterday?
I was in the press box yesterday.
How are you feeling about Cam?
It looked great.
Awesome.
The rushing's great. A little still needs some time in the passing games. In that second, not to turn this into a Patriots podcast, but second half coming into it was probably his best drive there coming in the third quarter. The adjustment that I think that they made was we're just going to give you one read pre-snap and you're just going to chuck it right out there because he was like 4 for 4 on that touchdown drive. So you still got to kind of learn the offense a little bit more, but also the personnel for New England at the receiving position stinks. But
I think Belichick's got a cheat code now that you can come out of the gates and with no preseason and no real offseason, run the football a ton, play defense, and you can get Cam acclimated as you go. It's a really actually ingenious plan. All right, let's talk a little bit of so anyway, I would say I think you take Adam Humphries under, Corey Davis under. I love the Jonnu Smith over with you. I'm with you there. I don't hate Derrick Henry. Actually, no, I'm not going to bet Derrick Henry's under receiving yards. That's just I don't want to mess with Derrick Henry receiving yards.
Yeah,
Humphries under, Jonnu Smith over, and then let me look. I want to see what one more is. Sorry.
Well, as you look at that, Will, I do like a lottery ticket one. Again, don't bet the house on it, but this one I do think is really interesting. Tim Patrick, anytime touchdown, plus 450. That one to me is a little bit interesting, especially if Courtland Sutton's out. He's probably going to get the start at the other wide receiver spot to Jerry Jeudy. You're just talking about Drew Lock finding him once. Just find him once, and that's something that I think is really interesting. 1. Right. I think a lot of people will probably look at Deshaun Hamilton there, but I would like Tim Patrick.
I would actually I think Deshaun Hamilton under with all the additions they've had. And here's the other one I like. This is another slammer. Ryan Tannehill over rushing yards 13.5.
Yeah.
He's going to rush. He will get that in the first half.
Yep. He'll go.
If they're up 21-0 in the second half, he's not going to be running the ball a bunch. But that dude just runs. He's going to run for 40 yards tonight. 13.5 is the wrong number. So I think these Titans props are wildly mispriced. Whoever, if you're listening to this, go get it now before the game starts because these will start moving. These things move like crazy leading up.
It's already moved this morning. I was doing an update to this post that, there was a ton of movement. So
the player props fly all over the place. The markets are wild. All right, let's talk some DFS. What do you think the play is? What's your top captain pick for this particular game?
I love A.J. Brown just for season long. And he's 12,900. It's a really expensive number, but I just love him coming into his second year. I think if they're going to come out of, if we think that they're going to come out of the gates throwing a little bit more to then shift to Derrick Henry rushing, it's going to be A.J. Brown that moves the sticks. It's going to be who Ryan Tannehill looks at. I just think he's an absolute stud. This is one of those situations where I probably wouldn't get too cute, try to find a defense like we were talking about with the Steelers. I think I would kind of just go Chuck and go A.J. Brown. Again, it's pricey. You're going to have to kind of move things around there, but I do like him there.
So I don't know how you get away from Derrick Henry as your captain in this spot.
Yeah.
Unless you think the Broncos are winning the football game.
Yeah.
And if you do that, look, there's a path. There's always a path for an outcome where the Broncos come out hot and the Titans are forced to pass and Derrick Henry is sort of nullified. I think it's really unlikely, but there's a path there. And if you think that's the path, then obviously don't use Derrick Henry. But, you can go Derrick Henry, Titans defense, grab the 2 kickers, grab Jonnu Smith, toss Ryan Tannehill in there, and you still got $3,400 underneath the cap.
Yeah, it's the chalk play captain, but where you'll win it is elsewhere on the flexes. Like that's, again, he's the stud of this offense. I'm going a little bit off with A.J. Brown, but it's in that same vein. You could probably roster both of them either way you slice that. Derrick Henry, there's no shame in that whatsoever. Again, chalky, but you can fix that elsewhere in the roster.
And if you do go A.J. Brown as your captain, you got to come back and have Derrick Henry on the roster because the game script there is pass to A.J. Brown, get up big, pound the ball with Derrick Henry. If you have to roster Derrick Henry, don't overthink it on, and now the other contrarian move would be make the Broncos defense your captain and just and see, maybe they just shut down Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And you fade Derrick Henry. Oh God, you can't.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Great stuff as always, Sully. We will talk to you soon, pal. Thanks for the preview.
No problem.